Good? You ready? Good morning.
Good morning.
I think it's still good morning. It is. We appreciate everyone coming today. We promise you we won't keep you too long in the sun, but thank God there is a little bit of a breeze. My name's Lee Smith, Chatham County Manager, and today and over the last really the last year, there's been a lot of conversation about our 911 system. We have in meeting as groups and as individual with the fire departments, police departments, sheriff's office, schools. Your first line of defense is 911. When an emergency happens, before the lights go off, and that's all the exciting part, somebody has to communicate. You've got to get word back so you can dispatch properly the situation at hand. It's been taught for a number of years. In fact, as I've been out in the community, different cities, out with fire departments, police departments, I hear this comment: this has been a long time coming. It's a long time coming in to consolidate 911 dispatching into one system. We know we've got an antiquated system as far as process. We've got a lot of folks behind me now, and I'm not going to name all of them, but you've got the public school system, you've got City of Savannah, I know Garden City, Bloomingdale, you've got City of Savannah, you've got Chatham EMS, Thunderbolt. You've got a lot of folks here, SEMA, who all work together. And again, it's not just when the blue lights and the red lights are on, it's prior to that. We know that we've got to move forward on next generation operations as far as our system itself. And you'll hear me always say our system. It is the community system. We work with Effingham, Bryan County, Bullitt County, Liberty County, Glenn County. This is a regional issue. The county commissioners in the last year actually adopted a resolution to form an E911 Executive Advisory Board, the EAB. In fact, as soon as this press conference is over, we'll be going into that meeting. We've already had one formal meeting. This will be the second. As part of that, the board adopted, and a number of other organizations have adopted, to put a structure together of all of the communities, cities, and public service groups to form a joint 911 center. Obviously, the goal of this transition is to promote improvements in public safety, communications for all communities and stakeholders that are behind me right now. The first action was evaluation of the 911 system itself. Winborn was here several years ago through the City of Savannah. We actually took that study, I believe it was 2011 if I'm not mistaken, actually updated that in the last 8 months to look at what we need to do as a community update, not just the technical aspect, but also the process of bringing together new procedures, standard operating procedures. Based on those recommendations, Chatham County contracted with the New Jersey-based IXP Corporation, and we have brought them on not only to have a on-site manager on a daily basis, but also to be consulting and looking at the system itself, looking at our personnel, our procedures, as it would relate to when something happens, when the system shuts down, or there's a natural disaster or a man-made issue, be it electricity or fiber lines cut, what happens. So IXP is really making, we get a report every Monday from the manager with our staff meetings as far as progress, recommendations. Members of this new Executive Advisory Board are members, and this is just to name a few: Chatham County, the municipalities, Chatham County Sheriff, Emergency Management, SEMA, Savannah, Chatham Public School System, and all the local municipalities, and then they're like fire departments, police departments. The EAB, or the Advisory Board, has adopted a new governance structure. We have formed and recommended review committees. One of the things that's going to happen is these review committees made up of police, fire, EMS, they're going to be making recommendations as to procedures, as to how we operate in the future. This is not just about fire. It's not just about police. It's not just about EMS. It's about all the community and certain aspects of how we communicate on a daily basis with our businesses and our citizens. The review committee is something that once we get all these plans in place, there will be a review committee that will go on forever. It will be perpetuated in that they will make recommendations. It will be made up of all of those folks like fire, rescue, local governments, where they will be, let's say we have an issue within 911, they actually will work with the managers at 911 and make recommendations as to how we improve. And we look at this not from we have issues, but we have a lot of opportunity in this community. It's been interesting over the last few weeks as we've been talking about the EAB and 911 of the citizens who have called and said, when I was in such and such city in Wisconsin, we had this type of system. So people are actually listening. They know, we're looking at things like how do we communicate with the Hispanic Latino community better. So, and we've had the Latino Chamber of Commerce to call us and want to work with us on certain issues of having translators, and that is a big issue for us as our community changes and grows. We are also, in working with IXP, looking at next generation. As folks are making recommendations and these groups are coming back, the next generation is what type of equipment do we need, not only our procedures and our policies, but there's lots and lots of platforms out there which, everybody has one of these. So how do we use smart technology to communicate with 911? And that's something that will be looked at. It's something that we will not go into lightly because these are major investments. We'll look over the next few years as millions of dollars in investment in technology, looking at our backup system. But also we will have a new emergency facility. It's going to be built at the airport. That's a $17 to $20 million project, which is being sponsored by SPLOST. So your sales tax dollars at work to build that facility that's going to have municipalities, our emergency operations center, 911 center, traffic management, which is great to have all those in one facility, including the airport security. So we're thrilled about that. Plans will be coming out in the next couple of months and actually looking at schedules for construction. So what I'd like to do now is I'd like to ask Rob Hernandez with the City of Savannah if he would come up and give a few comments, and then we will go into questions.
Great, thank you, Lee. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us this morning. First, I'd like to acknowledge the efforts of the Chatham County Board of County Commissioners and the Chatham County County Manager, Lee Smith, for taking the lead on this issue and bringing all of the jurisdictions within this county and all of the public safety agencies together to address how are we going to provide this important public safety service going into the future. Those of you know that about a year and a half ago, we approached the county and our sister municipalities and said, the City of Savannah is in a position where we can no longer afford to continue to provide this service on a county-wide basis. And we sat down with all the city managers and the county manager and we said, we need a new approach and we need your help in getting there. And the county manager and all of my colleagues in the cities agreed and have been working tirelessly on this new approach that ultimately ended up with us going to the county and saying, County,
I was going to say the sound of freedom. I don't know if it's that or Delta.
So we, right, that was Delta Flight 518 to Atlanta, right. So as I said before, we all then, the cities and all the cities in Chatham County approached the county government and the county manager and asked them to take this project on, and they agreed. And today, the county is announcing publicly the results of their leadership on this issue. And so, Lee, on behalf of the City of Savannah and the Savannah City Council, we thank you for that. And we look forward to working with your county and all of our municipal partners in moving this process forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks. At this time, we'll go ahead and begin to take questions. And obviously, if I know enough to be dangerous on some of the processes, I know we have Kelly Beeman with IXP here. She is our manager we hired with IXP. I have our project manager that can answer questions on procedures. And of course, we have all of our municipalities, Chatham EMS, the public schools, and our cities. So I would say fire away, but I would say just go ahead and ask questions. So, questions?
Can you speak to the cost of operating in the current standard, and then how you will go into what the cost will be? Is there any auxiliary costs as far as the new structure?
Well, right now we had, being the first year, we've taken on the budget from the City of Savannah. One of the things we're looking at is, the system itself is supported by 911 surcharges. And, across the state, there's been some legislative alterations to that. So we're going to be examining those fees. I know the City of Savannah has really borne the deficit of that we know in the general fund budget, which affects all of Chatham County, will bear any deficits. The deficit, I know, with the City of Savannah was somewhere between $1.8 and $2 million. So we're looking at, how do we refine that? Is there a way to reduce that deficit? But the other thing is to look at our 911 fees. One of the things we've talked about are general audits of the telcos or the phone companies to make sure that we're receiving the surcharges and the dollars that we're supposed to be receiving. That is a big issue. You'd be surprised at the number of telcos. It's not just the AT&Ts and the Verizons. There literally are, just close to 100 different operations in the community of phone companies. You have, these different mobile companies. As you drive down the street, everybody's offering service. So, we're looking at audits. But as far as going forward, some of that is going to, with IXP, making recommendations of staff levels, but also making recommendations as to the technology. One of the things we know we have to do is make sure we have a solid backup center. So at the West Precinct or that on Memorial Drive will be our backup center. So whatever we do in the future, we know we're going to have to make improvements on the system, on the computer-aided dispatch. That will probably happen over the next 12 to 18 months, but that will be in the existing system, and then we will migrate that technology over to the new facility in the next 24 to 36 months. So the budget this year, you're flying a little bit blind as far as what those costs are, but we're hoping with IXP's help, our project manager and all the folks behind me, that we'll develop more of a permanent budget moving into January of 19 to incorporate into the 19-20 budget.
Is it possible you would ask for a fee increase for municipalities?
Not from municipalities. If we did anything, I don't see a fee from municipalities. What we would look at is talking to our legislators, and there's a number of folks across the state looking at surcharge changes. It's set with a ceiling to actually look at, is there a way to increase that surcharge? That way everybody is paying the cost. The other thing is the deficits will come out of the general fund, which is the M&O for the county. That way that is spread out appropriately across the county, because it was with the City of Savannah really was unfair just to have the City of Savannah bear that cost.
Mr. Smith, this might be better for IXP, I'm not sure, but
Okay.
talking about that new technology coming in,
Yes.
especially when it comes to cell services, I know a couple of months back we had an issue with a call for service regarding some break-ins on Fort Argyle Road.
Yes.
There was, some issues with that cell phone call being bounced to different towers and 911 centers in Effingham and Bryan counties. Will that new technology resolve those issues for those residents near the county?
Well, that's what's part of being evaluated now. I would ask our project manager, Kelvin Lewis, and Kelly Beeman with IXP if they would come up and just be prepared to maybe talk about some of those things on Next Generation. We've got lots of ideas, but I'd like them. These are technical folks. I'd ask them to come up and if they can address some of those issues.
And if you can, yeah, sir, if I have you start by saying and spelling your name for us, please, just make sure we get that right.
It's Kelvin, Kelvin, Lewis. In reference to your question as far as location pinging, that will be improved certainly through the next generation of 911. It actually focuses on being able to enhance those pinpointing accuracies closer for those calls. Another thing that we're doing to improve those efforts is we're entering into a lot more intergovernment agreements or MOUs with other agencies and other counties. So if there is a person closer to respond to a call, that's the person that's going to be the first person on site.
Are those improvements taking place now, or are they part of new technology and purchases?
No, we're actually doing a lot of those things right now. We have a number of agreements out to different municipalities. Of course, everything goes through a process, and those answers are going to their boards. Those requests are going to their boards for final approval, and then once we have those in place, they will be part of our organization as a whole. So.
Do you have any timeline for when that's going to happen?
Well, hopefully we've already sent out a number of MOUs to Henry County as well as Effingham County. And we expect those back within the next couple of weeks to have those agreements to start putting them into our organization.
Can you speak to why you, the county or the decision makers felt it was necessary to hire this consulting firm and have this firm operate the center instead of the county doing it?
Sure. Well, obviously Kelly with IXP, and she's done a wonderful job here in the last few months. She came in the first day and was looking at, how we operate, looking at industry standards and best practices. We've talked about, as with all the folks behind me, we looked at, do we have a board? Do we privatize? What do we do? So I think it is the feelings of the folks behind me and our elected officials that we actually civilianize this operation. It has operated, under Metro for many years, and then the county, but we know now it needs to be civilian operated, and with this review board and advisory board, the folks behind me have to have the buy-in and have to be involved for continual improvement. You just don't set a 911 system in place and say, okay, we got it for the next 20 years. It is continuously evolving. Again, when I held up my phone, you see smartphones, everybody has one. I see people texting and recording. That technology changes, so we have to keep up with that. And this is a problem across the nation and around the world of keeping up with those technologies. One thing I also need to point out is, we're talking about calls coming in, but then we've got to talk about dispatching going out. I've got our ICS department here, Nick Beatty, who works with our radio system operation, which is regional, because without being able to dispatch appropriately and having those procedures, 911 doesn't work. So our folks are looking at the procedures for, I think we were looking at APCO standards. Yeah, and looking at dispatching processes. So IXP, that's part of why Kelly's here, is to take a look. And along with IXP, she had her technology folks here a couple weeks ago doing an evaluation. And Nick Beatty with our ICS, working with ICS or IT, information technology with the City of Savannah, to look at how we improve from actually putting in new fiber lines to UPS, generators. I know we have some things at the Civic Center with the city's emergency management areas. We have some things in the old courthouse on Bull Street, some things at the West Precinct, different towers. We've got to consolidate those things. So the next year we're going to be busy and look forward to recommendations from IXP.
Should the public notice any difference?
The public should notice no difference. If there's a difference, then we've made a mistake. This should be seamless. Now, for all of us, we should see the difference in timing of calls. We get, calls during high level. I will give without giving a specific, but during the tornado or certain events that happen, we get overloaded. Well, I will tell you, you operate a 911 center for the average, not the peak. So we try to educate the public. I know we've done some, the city has and the county has, put information out that during peak periods, it will ring, the 911 will ring longer. Now, calls can be dropped either because of technical aspects or human error. And if that's the case, we have a callback system. It does not operate at the level that we think it should operate as recommended by IXP, so we've got to upgrade that. And that's part of what Kelvin just mentioned to you. Many of those things are happening right now. Other questions? We good? Anybody, schools, some of the other city managers, any other comments? Come on. Intro.
Terry Yanick, Chief of Police with Board of Education Police Department. Let me just thank the city manager and all of our partners that are with us today. When seconds count, it's critically important that we have uninterrupted, seamless communications through 911. We have 55 schools located throughout all 9 municipalities. The first responder to that 911 call, if I don't have a SRO in the school, is going to be one of my partners behind me. And even with that SRO there, our partners are still responding. And so it's all a part for us. It's about school safety. That partnership is critically important. Communication is critically important. And I want to thank everyone here today and all of our city managers and county managers for their leadership. This is a critical issue for our county, and we'll continue to keep working until we get it to be the very best it can be.
Yes. Any other questions or anyone else? Was there anything from EMS standpoint?
Chuck Kearns, the CEO of Chatham Emergency Services, Chatham Fire, Chatham EMS. Somebody said a comment a moment ago about seeing a difference, and really I agree, the citizens shouldn't see a difference, but behind the scenes, I've already seen immense changes. I give an awful lot of credit to the county and the team that they put on this project to run it. I'm very impressed with Ms. Beeman, the director of 911. I've run a lot of pretty high-tech 911 centers in my career, and she knows what she's doing, so has my full confidence.
Okay, Mr. Kearns? Sorry, just had a quick question for you.
Yes, sir.
I know out on Skidaway, a lot of the residents, there are signs up that say, basically, in the event of an emergency, don't even bother calling 911, call directly your dispatch center. Do you anticipate those signs being taken down, that need not being there anymore?
I would never tell anybody to call a 7-digit number in lieu of 911. 911 is always the first call, and that is a practice out there that has evolved over almost 60 years of our providing services out there. So we're absolutely happy and fine, and would encourage people to call 911.
Yeah, you always have that, this is the way we've always done it. Well, we're not always going to do it that way anymore. So we're looking to change, looking at how we improve, because this is about the citizenry, our businesses, making sure that we get the services they need, emergency service to them as quickly as possible. That is our job. That is our requirement and our legal obligation. And these folks behind me, when the lights go off, and these are the folks that are out at 1 in the morning in the dark, and they're folks. And I want to thank all of them for the job they do. We have a lot of praise we need to give them. So we're safe and secure in our beds, and they're out doing the things we need to keep our community safe. So with that, we're going to head into our next advisory board meeting, and we appreciate the opportunity. Thank you very much.